Okay, good morning, everyone. Today is April 6th, and my name is Patrice Marcel. I'll be your host today for this, wow, I don't know if it's the fourth, fifth, or sixth edition, or maybe more than that, of those CCIF Education Series webinars. I'm very happy that, that you are joining us today. I know that we have a pretty good crowd attending, so we'll give a few minutes for a few more to come in. But I'm happy to see everybody and to see to see that everybody's we have a good attendance for today. So let me just move here with those slides. Okay, so those webinars, 60 minutes-ish events that we do in the March-April timeframe, July, November. We do some technical and management session. This time we're going more towards the management one. These are usually some follow-ups or topics of interest that we discussed at the regular CCIF events, which I am going to be talking about pretty soon, which we're pretty happy with what's coming up. Any suggestions, or if you would like to present, you would like to have a topic, you say, hey, this is nice, we should be talking about that. Hey, just reach out, just go to the CCIF website. You can reach out to caroline.lacasse@ccif.ca. And if you go to the CCIF website, you'll find about the CCIF, there are some speaker guidelines here, so you can submit a topic that you would like to do. So we would be more than happy to look at your application. Some housekeeping. So of course the microphones you will be muted. You can chat with participants. You can use the Q&A if you want to ask any questions. I'll try to monitor the Q&A during the session here. And of course, like every other sessions, those are recorded and then they are posted on the CCIF website. If you go to the website, you'll find your way to the meetings and to the recordings, and you can look at this one again. And before we go any further, I need to say we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors who have been continuing to support the CCIF during these difficult times. So we're gonna give here a minute or two to make sure that we recognize them. So it's tough. It has been tough the last couple of years. And I mean, everything's been affected. Every single companies have been affected in many ways. So it is nice to see that we still have support of this industry. So I want to say thank you personally to all of you, to all of our sponsors here, which we're happy to show you who they are. So thank you very much again. So we have different level of sponsorships. If you would be interested in, just again, reach out to Caroline, just go to the CCIF website and we'll definitely help you with that. So a couple more, and then we'll be on our way here with this interesting topic that we have today. I'm pretty pleased with this one. I think that's pretty appropriate. So I'm going to stop here though before I go any further. I mean, and I purposely put the live word in red here because I mean, hey, we're good to go. I mean, it's actually, it should have been green, like it's a green light. So June 2nd and 3rd, we will be in Montreal at the Marriott Airport for the the first live face-to-face events in many years. So more than happy. So I hope that we're going to be seeing all of you and all of your friends and all of your colleagues as well. So that's nice. Happy to see you there. Just think a moment about being able to see a network like you know, that's the purpose of the CCIF, to get everybody together and network and advance important topics for the collision repair industry. So I mean, we're going to have this opportunity. If you want to make it a vacation, this is nice. Think about Old Montreal, think about St. Catherine Street for shopping. You can stay even a little longer. I saw that the Grand Prix du Canada, the Formula One Grand Prix, will be in mid-June in Montreal. So if you want to stay a little longer and do that, there's, I mean, well, Canal La Chine, there's a lot of good places to go. Montreal, food's fantastic. And of course, we have another one here at the other end of the country, which will be in Vancouver in the fall. So Vancouver in the fall is always very nice. If you want to walk Stanley Park, if you just want to take a look at the city from Grouse Mountain or shop on Burrard Street. I mean, this is all good things that happen, and we're working on the agenda in both. I mean, the Montreal agenda is almost done, and you'll hear from that very soon. We're working on the one in Vancouver as of right now. I just wanted to point that because it's kind of exciting. We're doing that in person now. It's kind of been a while since we did that. So, okay, today we're going to talk about issues on part shortages. We went with the title that says parts challenges because actually it is a challenge. So we're going to look at the situation, different strategies and options to try to minimize the impact for everybody, for all the stakeholders. I mean, we'll see that's kind of a big issue. That's kind of a big thing. So we're going to quickly go at why do we have shortage and when are we going to be out of it? And is there any best practices for repairers and insurers and everybody to mitigate the situation? We're going to talk about repair versus replace. We're going to talk about non-reusable parts, aftermarket recycled parts, and talk about probably what is today one of the toughest job in the collision repair industry, which is repair planning, scheduling, or parts ordering. So don't want to make a joke out of that, but that's definitely got to be a challenging one. So to achieve that, though, I mean, we have our subject matter experts. We have Mr. Paul Stella. I mean, hopefully you know Paul. I've known Paul for a couple of years, and fantastic person to be around, very knowledgeable. We're very happy that Paul has accepted to be part of this kind of an interview style webinar today. So Paul has 36 years of experience at Toyota Canada, and he has held multiple roles with Toyota. So operation manager for parts operation, parts and service area manager for Toyota Lexus, manager for vehicle processing center, has an in-depth knowledge of the Toyota way. He's a big NASCAR fan. That's funny because 10 minutes ago we were just kind of making sure everything was working, and I mean the discussion went on the NASCAR path, of course. Graduate of a Centennial College Automotive Technician program. Paul has been the manager for collision repair and refinish program at Toyota Canada for the past 9 years. Past 5 years, Paul has also taken on the responsibility of brand protection. Mr. Paul Stella, how are you?
I'm well, Patrice, and thank you for those kind remarks. Yeah, we could talk NASCAR all day, but I guess we're not going to talk about NASCAR. We'll talk about parts. So thank you for that. And hello, everyone. I'm seeing some of the names come through in the chat here. I recognize a lot of those names. Good to see you virtually. And for those of you that I don't know, nice to meet you for the first time. So
very nice. Well, thank you for being there, Paul. We appreciate your presence here. It's always busy, but it's nice to see that you're taking time out of your schedule to discuss this matter here.
Yeah, great.
So pleasure. I thought about bringing the topic here. I've done a little bit of research in preparation for this, and I was reading this article that just came out last month while I was doing some research, and I said, that's probably the best way to put things in perspective is that to look at it from a repairer, from a consumer point of view. So basically here, if you allow me to read, is that okay? My car was involved in an accident. It has been at the repair center for almost 2 months waiting for replacement parts, and they recently contacted me to say it will take another 2 months. The parts required appeared to be pretty basic for a front-end collision repair. Dock extension, front skid plate, radiator, and engine wiring. Of course, there's probably a lot more lines than that if it's a front, if it's a front-end collision. But that's the consumer, and I can picture this conversation between two neighbors about, hey, my car is not coming in, and that's, and everybody jumps in and they all have kind of solutions to that. But and I thought that would kind of bring this the topic today. I mean, to take in a view here from a consumer perspective. So, Paul, parts challenges here. We agreed to say, I mean, it's a challenge for everybody. It's not about just the fact that that it may be a shortage, but it definitely it is a challenge. So if I can just take a moment here, and then I'll get your opinion before we go to some questions here. I think customers might not be very happy with the situation sometimes, if I refer to just a quote that I had, because the situation, repairers are running out of patience, I guess, and running out of repair stalls and maybe courtesy cars or things like that. Insurers are dealing with policyholders that are not pretty happy, I guess, and they don't have a lot of options. Suppliers are waiting for shipments, which are somewhere, and dealers are sometimes showroom that looks pretty empty, and the whole lot that look a little empty, and manufacturers are slowing down production. Again, this week I was hearing that I think that's Camaro plant and the Mustang plant, they're still, or they shut down production for a week and things like that. So that's not pretty, Paul, isn't it? That's not very pretty.
Yeah, Patrice, I agree. And the news, that you hear, I hear the same things on the news. And I'm in the Toronto area, and I drive past a dealership. It doesn't matter what make or brand, and I see a lot of asphalt on the dealer's lot, meaning there's inventory levels are way down, right? And that's right across the board for all manufacturers. I do see more used cars than I do new cars, and that's kind of the way the trends have gone right now. So yeah, it's definitely it's coast to coast. It's here, and I think it's going to be like this for a little bit longer, just with some of the world challenges that are going on right now, with Ukraine and COVID. There's still some places with restrictions and those things. So
Paul, what is the problem? Just to, and there's probably it's probably required a very long answer, but what would be kind of the executive summary you hear about what's the problem?
Yeah, so gosh, I don't know how much time we have here to talk about this, but maybe I can just kind of walk you through how I see this has come out. So COVID hit 2 years ago, and pretty much everything shut down. Everything got locked down, shut down until we could figure things out. And then it was determined that essential services would need to be up and running still, and one of the essential services is automotive. And so let's get the manufacturing plants building cars again. Let's get the service centers fixing cars. Let's get the dealers selling cars, because people need cars to go about their business, especially the essential workers. So that was the first phase of it. But COVID put a lot of restrictions in place for manufacturers and repair centers. And we'll talk the collision side of things. So look at the barriers that manufacturing plants had to put in, with the plastic plexiglass, the masking, the testing, social distancing. So what has happened, throughput has gone way down. So a manufacturing plant that would able to build 100 units, whatever those units may be, is maybe down to 80, just because of the COVID restrictions. Now, if someone gets sick because they have COVID, now we have a manpower issue. So now, again, that challenges the throughput, and that person needs to isolate for 10, 15 days, whatever it was during that time frame. So as we moved along, we got a little bit better. A lot of consumers stayed at home, so no one was driving, no one was, crashing cars, and no one was really buying cars in the early stages. Then, restrictions started to lift a little bit, and we got to get manufacturing going again, because now there's a demand. But all those challenges are still in place, and governments also put in assistance for families, money on the table for people to have offset. And, maybe those people couldn't come to work because they have to look after children or parents, kids were home from school. So there was a whole bunch of factors in play that contributed to the problem. And then the other thing that happened was people were at home and they found Amazon and all these other shopping online places, right? That put a strain on the logistics of all these different commodities, right? So, and that still kind of exists today, that strain of, on the logistics network.
Okay. So that would be the, so that's why we do, we end up with, if we go, that would explain, why we have this. You just mentioned too, before we went into this, that that is going to go on for a little while, or this is, so what do you mean by this is going to go on for still a little while?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball that I could say by this date, it's ended, right? Or we're back to normal, but I wish I don't have that. And I don't think really anyone does. So, the big driver of this, or the big shortage that we hear about, is the computer chips, the manufacture the chips.
Yeah.
And that has a big impact on the manufacturing of these components. Not just automotive. It could be a cell phone. It could be a Sony PlayStation. Not to call out any one brand, but it's a challenge getting those commodities. The shortage we have as well too, as I mentioned, some of the concerns about manpower and throughput. There's a huge strain on the logistics network right now. And what I mean by strain is, I read an article, or maybe I even heard it. This was in the, last year, September, October timeframe. Most of the commodities, that come from the Asian market typically go into the United States, Long Beach, and maybe the Vancouver port. So we'll just talk Long Beach. They only can handle so many ships per day, whatever that number was. And the article I heard was they had like 100 or so ships anchored out in front of the port of Long Beach, in the Los Angeles area. And even at some point, some of those ships were anchored in Mexican water. Wow. So you can imagine, how many ships are, waiting to come into port to offload their commodities. They also had shortages of manpower. So they need, when the ship arrives, they have these machines that offload those containers to be put onto a transport truck or some kind of carrier to move it to the next stage of the process. Well, they didn't have enough manpower to people to drive those trucks. So that just backlogged everything.
Yeah.
So now we have a problem getting a shipping container. I'm a manufacturer, let's say in Asia, and I'm making commodities and I want to ship that to the North American market. Well, I don't have any shipping containers to put them in because they're all held up in port on the other side of the ocean. So it's just kind of backing things up, along the way. Long Beach has done a lot of hard work to clear those backlogs, just like a lot of the other ports have done. And they've done a really good job to, get those backlogs, and commodities are starting to move again. But we're not out of the woods yet. There's still, still those challenges. And we see that today.
So you also said, Paul, that was pretty much everywhere. So we cannot say that it's typical to a geographical area or a place, or it's more here, less there, or this is kind of global. Is that at least everywhere in North America?
Yeah, I tend to believe that is. Like I talk to collision centers coast to coast here in Canada, and I ask, how's business, and everyone says business is great. I just wish I could get a few more parts, and it's just not one OEM. It's not the aftermarket. It's everything. It's all parts. They're just, it's just a challenge getting those parts. So
yeah,
and that's coast to coast here.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you were mentioning the semiconductor or the chip, and I found this interesting article last week, actually, that came out in the Repair Driven News, and I'll be referring to it a few times during this interview here. And I was amazed, to see that an average new vehicle manufactured today contains more than 1,000 semiconductor for everything, interior lighting, cooling, and ADAS, and all this. So these are the little chips that we see. So of course they're everywhere. So this is how I was absolutely amazed to get that. geez, I never thought I'm 100. I would have thought 100, 150. But now on average, for the average new vehicle, so we're not talking about only the high-end thing, the high-end cars. I mean, they have a lot of it. So wow, that's incredible. But what I found even more incredible is this one that I found. I said, wow, this is where we're a big consumer. The automotive industry is a big consumer of semiconductor. Well, no, they're not. Because when you look at this, and you just mentioned the phones, I mean, there's 1 billion phones sold every year versus 100 million cars. So phones do use a lot of semiconductors as well. So of course, in all the TVs and everything, the flat screen. And as you mentioned, Paul, over the last 2 years, a lot of people were working from home. So I mean, what did they do? They bought phones, game consoles, smart TVs, laptops, and all these electronics. So which, I mean, probably, you know, explain a little bit of, on top of the COVID, on top of all the restrictions, the demand for semiconductors went pretty high or through the roof. So that is just, you know, contributing to this big problem that we have here. So anyway, in unbelievable numbers that when I was looking at this, I'm saying, whoa, this is that's big, and that's just one. That's just, you know, semiconductors.
Yeah, that's amazing. I saw that article too, and I went, wow, like, you know, that puts kind of things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can share, you know, my kids have been bugging me to get them. You know, I mentioned the Sony PlayStation. Every time I go to, you know, big box store to try and get one, or wherever, you know, these things are sold, they look at me and just say, sorry, you know, we get them in and they're gone as soon as they're here. And I can't even tell you when our next shipment is coming. That's, you know, that's the
Yeah.
messaging I'm getting as a consumer, right?
Yeah, so it's not only the automotive industry here. I mean, it's
Correct.
the entire manufacturing. So okay, let's there's I understand there is no magic here, and it will take, you know, some time for this whole thing to come back to normal, but we can, at least we can try to focus on the things that we can control. So let's outline some of that. So just before we do, though, back to this article that I got in Reaper Driven News, which was just some quotes that I want to bring here. So here we have a repairer saying that the extra time up front spent is always going to be the saving grace, because there's nothing worse than waiting 2 to 3 weeks for your parts to finally show up, and then it's the wrong one. Okay, so that's yeah, you don't want that to happen. And there's a lot of vehicles that we're putting back on the road partially repaired until we can get those pieces. So that came out of the same article that I was referring to here. So Paul, any suggestions here on best practices for the repairers and the insurers that we have here online today to try to mitigate the issue? I mean, the problem is there. I mean, this is not going to go away rapidly. So any suggestions here that
Yeah,
you want to share?
So you know me, Patrice, I have a lot of suggestions and I have a lot to say. So I've made some notes here, and a lot of them I'd like to, you know, at the end, there's kind of like the last question, more like best practices as well too. And maybe I can go through them at the end there, because I'm going to be able to wrap it up with like those comments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So can we maybe hold that? Because I do have, like, it's all going to flow. I do have a lot that I can share, but there was a couple other questions on this slide that maybe I can address right now.
Okay, no, absolutely.
If you want to do that, yeah, okay.
You did mention this rental versus extended warranty options. I mean, can you just expand a little bit more on it?
Yeah, so when consumers buy our vehicles, Toyota and Lexus vehicles, many times they purchase an extended warranty, and that gives them, you know, extended warranty well beyond the original warranty on the vehicle. But in that package, depending what they purchase, you know, at the dealership, it comes in different levels, and it could come with, you know, a handful of oil changes or tire rotations, you know, whatever that may be. And in there, depending on the level or what they purchase, it also has, if your vehicle's down for a period of time, there is a rental allowance, or, you know, allowance in there for rental. So that's something that I would encourage the collision centers to contact their, you know, their partner dealer and just say, hey, does this vehicle have extended warranty? Because there are some benefits that that are available, if that vehicle has extended warranty that the customer has purchased. And the dealers can, look up the VIN and tell right away if that vehicle does have that product on it.
Okay. I understand that not sure if you are aware, but do you know if the other manufacturers are offering similar packages or similar options? Do you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I know they do offer, most car companies offer some kind of extended warranty that they purchase. And I don't want to say for sure yes or no, but I do know they offer extended warranties. I'm just not sure what their packages would include.
Okay. So what about non-reusable part? I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but can you provide some examples of those non-reusable parts and why they are identified as being non-reusable?
Yeah, good question here. So a non-reusable part. So I'll back up a little bit and talk about a non-reusable part in the mechanical side. So when we do an oil change on any car, it doesn't matter if it's a Toyota, a Lexus, a Honda. They pull the oil filter off, that comes off, and you take the drain plug from the oil pan off, and the oil drains out. The bolt that you pulled out of the oil pan has a little rubber gasket or a gasket of some kind on there that becomes brittle or hard over a period of time because of the heat and cool down cycle of the engine. And we replace that little gasket. And that's a perfect example of a non-reusable part. And we do that so the oil doesn't leak from the engine. On the body side of things, on the body of the vehicle, there are many non-reusable parts. And I'll use a tail light as an example. It has a gasket as well too. So when the tail light is bolted to the quarter panel in that area of the car, there's a gasket to keep the water from filling up the trunk, just through the life of the vehicle. So if a shop is going to paint that quarter panel, they'll remove the tail light and mask off the area in the pocket of the tail light, paint the quarter panel, and then reinstall the tail light. Well, that gasket has compressed, and Toyota says that taillight gasket is a single-use part. So how do we find out if it's a single-use part? Well, in our repair procedures in TIS, and TIS stands for our Total Information System, that's where we find all our literature, we highlight those single-use parts in that area. So, if a technician, bodyman is looking at the procedures to get the quarter panel ready to be painted or whatever that process may be, maybe even installing a new one, it'll give literature instructions on how to pull the tail light out, what you have to remove, the size of the bolts, and it will identify that gasket as a single-use part. Our dealers as well too, our Toyota and Lexus dealers have this information as well too on how to help identify those single-use parts. So if we don't replace that taillight gasket and we put it back on, the opportunity of a water leak, now we got a customer satisfaction issue that we're dealing with. And that's never ever fun dealing with that, the trunk's filling up with water after repair, right? But there are many single-use parts on the body of the car, clips that hold rocker covers on, wheel arch moldings, they have clips in there. Another good example is spoilers on our vehicle. I had a call from a shop, and it was a bit of a customer relations issue, that the trunk was painted. For whatever reason, the trunk was repainted, and it has a spoiler on it. Less than a year later, there was rust happening where the spoiler is mounted onto the deck lid or the trunk. And so they asked for my opinion. So I said, well, show me the repair literature or the documents. What did you do to fix the car? And so the spoiler was pulled off, the trunk was painted, and the spoiler was put back on. But in between the deck lid and the spoiler, there's a gasket between there. And the purpose of that gasket is to keep dissimilar metals or dissimilar products from rubbing on each other. Well, that gasket wasn't replaced. It was reused. And we say that it's a single-use part and it should have been replaced. And chances are that was the culprit that caused that rust to happen, the second time round. So now we got a CSI issue going on.
Okay. So Paul, in my previous slide, I mean, there was a quote from repairer that was saying that they were, letting cars go that were unfinished or missing some parts because, I mean, they didn't know when the parts would come in or things of that nature. But are there certain parts that I can send the customer home without on a car. Or if you mention like the gasket for the tail light, if this gasket is not there, I mean, are you going to hold the car for this, or put the new one in until the old one there until the new one comes in? That's not a tricky question, but I'm just trying to give some guidance here. Is that okay to send the vehicle back if there's some parts missing, and if so, what kind of parts would that be?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to think about is common sense. Like, what if there's anything safety related that's going to jeopardize the occupants or the performance of the vehicle, I would say don't let the car go. But if we're waiting, let's say for an emblem, that says the brand of the car, that goes on the rocker panel or the deck lid or whatever, yeah, I think you could send that, ask the customer, hey, listen, this part will be another few days coming in. When it comes in, we'll gladly put it on your car, or maybe come to your office, whatever solution you work out with your customer to make that happen. But this is something that you should negotiate with your customer at the time, when you're making that decision. And some customers say, no, I don't want the car until it's 100% finished, and that's their business as well too. But if there's issues, with rental cars maybe running out of time, or that might be an option that you need to explore. But I will say, if it's anything safety related or will affect the performance of the vehicle, don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's look at some other options as well here. And I thought that this article was really appropriate, so I stole another portion of it. So well, Jerry Gastineau from Mitchell International is quoted in this article saying that shops are having to wait for OEM parts to come in, or they may have to make the decision to use aftermarket or salvage parts instead. They may also consider repairing a part rather than replacing it with, and that is, that's some of the things that I'm hearing talking with people about. I mean, the repair versus replace. So Paul, is repairing an option, and any concerns about? I mean, I think. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to kind of get into a lot of the stuff that I've got here.
Of course.
So first of all, as a Toyota employee, and someone that I work for Toyota, I can only support the use of Toyota genuine parts, our Toyota recommended repair procedures found in our repair literature, and this includes using of our Toyota scan tool TechStream. I can only endorse and support those. Secondly, we should never jeopardize customer safety and the quality of repair. And we should treat each, repair that we're doing as if it was a family member, car that we're fixing, a family member's car, like your son or daughter, or, a close family member, and you're fixing their car. So with those, we never want to jeopardize the quality and safety of the repair. So is repairing an option? Yeah, there's times that, repairing may be a better solution than replace, because if the replacement part is a long time away or not available, and you can repair that component and have it repaired so there's no safety concerns, no quality concerns, there's no issues with that. Like if you need to fix a dent on a door, there's tools there that you can pull the dent. Same with a quarter panel. Be mindful now, though, that a lot of these components are now becoming aluminum, aluminum hoods, aluminum door skins, aluminum fenders. So that's another challenge that is facing the collision industry. Repairing aluminum is not hard; it's just different, and you need a special, and that tooling to remove any kind of those dents. So from a concern standpoint, just the quality of that repair, if you're repairing that component. Any kind of high strength steel or any of those components that are in the safety part of the vehicle, if there are no repair procedures outlined in a specific repair manual, in our case from a Toyota and Lexus standpoint, if there are no repair procedures, then it's a non-repairable part, right? High strength steel, you got to be mindful of the high strength steel. no heat on that. It's a cold pull if you're straightening. So just be mindful of what the repair literature says.
And thank you, Paul, for that. And what about? Let me just move here. What about aftermarket or recycled parts? I mean, that's definitely something that comes to mind here when you want to deliver the car to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not going to say this doesn't happen in the industry. Obviously it does, right? But again, I just want to go back to my opening point, about Toyota and genuine parts, where that's what I can support. But at the end of the day, collision centers have a customer in front of them, and they're dealing with an insurance partner, and we need to get a car fixed, right? So if that means doing what you have to do to get the car fixed, then you have to get the car fixed, right? But again, I just need to reiterate, my stance as a Toyota employee that I can only support the Toyota.
No,
Parts,
absolutely.
right?
But I mean, there are some considerations here that need to be. I think you were mentioning the safety element in the repair versus replace. I mean, probably the same kind of a logic and consideration has to apply here at that point.
Yeah, correct. And then obviously, that information needs to be communicated with your customer, because that's ultimately his or her vehicle that you're repairing, right? So that information needs to be communicated with those customers.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're moving into the what I said is probably the most challenging job in the collision industry at the moment, which is repair planning or scheduling work or parts ordering. Sometimes it's one person, depending on the size of the shop. Sometimes it's 3 different roles as well. So I don't know. As a comment to myself here this morning, I wrote hope for the best, plan for the worst. I mean, that's probably the kind of mode that these people are right now. So Paul, any words of wisdom for schedulers, for parts managers, for repair planners about how they can handle the situation here and make the best of the situation?
Yeah, I do have some suggestions here, and I'm not going to be able to speed the parts up. I don't have a bag of parts, at my desk or at my home office that I can get parts to our partners out there. But I will like to try and share with maybe some ideas to help help that we're getting, the proper orders in, and anything we can do to be efficient and effective on our side, and trust that the logistics network will do their part to get the parts to the end user here. So this may be some basic stuff that I'm going to share, but just some best practices, that I've seen, traveling coast to coast and attending conferences as well too, and dealing with, industry experts. So dual monitors, it's important that someone that's, creating an estimate or in that process has dual monitors. So on one screen, you've got the estimate working, whatever that looks like. And on the second monitor, you have the repair literature, repair planning, maybe even a schematic of the part. So that way you're able to look efficiently, on dual screens on what you're doing. That's going to help you become more efficient just in that process there too. Mirror matching parts. I'm a huge supporter of mirror matching parts. And what we mean by mirror matching, you've placed your order to your vendor. In this case, I'm going to say a dealer, a Toyota dealer or a Lexus dealer. And, the dealer sends you the parts. Well, you have the old part and you have the new part, and you compare them, mirror match them. Does this headlight, my damaged headlight, look like the new headlight I'm getting? Are the clips, the mounting clips the same? Or is a style of headlight in there does it have a built-in fog light or the daytime running lights? Are the styles the same, right? And if you're confident or they're confirmed that, yeah, it's the right part, it's left side and not the right side, or vice versa, yeah, you've got the right part. Also do that for other components that maybe have mounting brackets, or there's, the 3 holes there to mount the bracket. And if there is, attach the 2 parts, the new part to the damaged part, and put that on your parts cart to deliver it to your body or whoever's, installing those parts. So that's key, mirror matching. You need to have a proper space as well too, to have the real estate in your work area to do that mirror matching. I'm also suggesting test fit prior to painting. And what I mean by that is, if you got components that need to be painted, well, before you paint them, give them a test fit. And you'll have to use your common sense on what parts may need to be test fitted. You know, bumper covers, maybe doors, just line them up to see if they line up, especially if there's some, you know, major trauma in that area where you did some heavy repairs, just to make sure everything lines up. Because if you paint that component and down the road, when you go to install it, there's an issue with the install, maybe not lining up or not fitting, or it's the wrong part. Now we got a challenge because most vendors don't take back components that have been painted. And I know we as Toyota do not take back painted parts. So that's important. The other thing I want to mention too is I had a call, and this is a real call. A shop asked me, hey, Paul, what are the procedures where do I drill to put in the parking sensors? And I said, excuse me? Yeah, I got a bumper here and I got to drill the holes for the parking sensors. I said, well, I think you have the wrong bumper, right? So they had to go back to their vendor and get that sorted out. So the other, and I've got a few more here to go. So we want to inspect the parts order. So as the order comes in, check the invoice and check the boxes with the part numbers on, or whatever identification is on the part. If you order two, do you have two? And confirm that and check that off, right? Also too, when that shipment comes in, some of the packages, I can speak for Toyota, and this is from my warehousing days, that we have directional arrows on a lot of our components. What we mean, like a directional arrow, whole, product must be in this direction, not in this direction. And the reason why we do that is in there, we put dunnage to help prevent that product from shifting or moving around. So if you're storing that part and the arrows are pointing down, we're not doing a good thing, right? Turn it around and make sure it's stored up. But when you do that, you may have to open up the carton to make sure that product has not shifted. And I'm going to use an engine hood as an example. It comes in a cardboard box and it's got dunnage on the corners and all around to keep it in place. But because of the box that maybe has been turned a couple times, the part may have slipped out of the holders, right? So just double check that and inspect for damage while you're doing that. Because if it's been upside down, there's potentially hidden damage. On that note, with the hoods, right, the corners, and body shops can appreciate this, and some of the dealers online, if sometimes the corner of the hoods poke through the box, and now as you're dragging it across the parts department, you're wearing down the corners of the edge of the hood. And also now it's out in the shop and you drag it across the grate in the shop floor, and now it gets hung up in there and now you've bent it, right? So just be mindful of that. Plastic bumper covers, when you're storing them, store them as how they will be mounted on the car. And Toyota calls that what we could say is in-car position. So if it's going to be bolted on like this, store it in the in-car position. I've seen, many shops where they'll store a new bumper cover, in their parts department on rocks, like a couple of poles sticking out of the wall, and they're just resting on there. Well, a lot of weight is being put on those corners, just where it's resting, and it will deform a bit, especially as we come into the hot weather. Those tend to, deform, and some may not go back into shape. So just be mindful of that. And that's just not, for our bumper covers. That might be a best practice for all bumper covers. This one also goes in conjunction with what I'm saying with, test fit. So 100% tear down. And the goal with 100% tear down is you want to find out what is needed for that car. Easier said than done. And I understand that, but if we could have a goal of one parts order, imagine if we could get to that one parts order, all the parts you need to fix that car, and you can work with your vendor to get that. And there's two schools of thoughts here. Do I pre-order parts or do I not pre-order parts? This is something that your parts managers in the collision center need to make that decision, right? My suggestion would be, if you're confident that you're going to get all the parts on your pre-order, then go ahead and do it. But if you're not confident that you're going to get all the parts, why pre-order, right? Because now you're going to have this parts come in, and it's going to take up real estate in your parts department to then, you have to go back and order a second or third time. So kind of in that spirit of things, to measure how you're doing, does your shop track the number of supplements per repair order? So this is how many times, you've done your first order and the tech starts working on a car. Oh, I need a few more parts, starts working, and then you need a few more parts. Do you track that? And if it seems to be a little bit higher number than what it should be, and I don't know what that number is, that's something that you need to manage in your shop. Maybe there's an opportunity for an improvement on that process of the parts ordering. So track your your supplements. How many supplements do you do? Because now your poor accounting department is getting all these different invoices. You know, they got to keep track of all the stuff, and your vendor is sending more parts to you, and you got to keep track of all these parts. Another point is understand your supplier's return policy, whatever that may be, and understand their cutoff time. And I'll speak to a cutoff time for our Toyota and Lexus dealers. And what we mean by a cutoff time, each of our dealers have a predetermined time during the day when all their orders must be in. So let's just say 3 o'clock for Patrice Marcel's Toyota dealership in Quebec. 3 o'clock is his cutoff time. So any vendors that he's dealing with needs to have his orders to him by 3 o'clock so he can process the orders and send them into us as Toyota. But I would, reach out to your dealers and ask, what is that cutoff time? So if it is 3 o'clock, maybe post something in your collision center that, hey, all my orders to Patrice Toyota needs to be in at 2:45, because Patrice needs a little bit of time to prepare and submit that order as well too. That way, you can work, it helps both sides of the house. We talked a little bit about single-use parts. Again, talk to your dealers. They have some knowledge and information on those single-use parts. And also in our repair literature, we highlight all those single-use parts in our repair literature. Another point that might be helpful in determining the parts is in TIS. TIS is our technical information system, and if you put the serial number in for that vehicle, it will tell you the trim package on that car. Does it have fog lights or not fog lights? Does it have parking sensors or not parking sensors? So we give the the build data of that particular car when you search it in TIS, and that will be helpful working with your vendors when you're ordering parts. I'd also research repairs procedures a little bit ahead of time. If you know a car's coming in, don't order the parts, but certainly research the repair procedures, because that's going to help you maybe identify some of those single-use parts that ahead of time that you can make that estimate or that parts order. Here's something that I think is going to add real big good value. Pre-book your appointment for calibrations. And here's what I mean by that. So if you're a body shop and you've received all your parts from your dealer, and a lot of body shops still sublet calibrations to their dealer, if you know you have all the parts, you're pretty confident when you know that car will be done based on your scheduling. So if you get all your parts today and you know it's going to take you 6 days to fix the car, or 4 days, whatever that may be, when you're in communication with your dealer, book a service appointment to have that calibration done. Right now we're in the springtime and we're in heavy tire, changeover season from winters to summer tires or all season tires, and our shops are pretty busy from that standpoint. But if you can get a time slot with your service department, your dealer service department, that, hey, at this date, I need a couple hours to, get the scanning or calibration done, or wheel alignment, or whatever it may need, back to the dealer from a sublet perspective. And, I'd also send maybe some photos along with your, repair plan or estimate to the dealer. Photos help the dealer as well too, by looking at the photo, and they can tell, maybe where some of those single-use parts are, or some of the trim packages that are on the car. We have a price match tool, and this price match tool is where the body shop can send the estimate over to the dealer for price matching opportunities. And I encourage everyone to do that. That's through a platform, OEC, OE Connection, and most body shops have that. Are we checking for outstanding recalls? Most OEMs, and I know Toyota and Lexus does on their main website, you have the ability to check for an outstanding recall. So as a little CSI thing for your customers, you can say to them, hey, listen, we went to Toyota's website and we ran the serial number and there was no recalls in your car, or we did notice there was an outstanding recall and we've contacted your local dealer and we've got an appointment set up, or we'll help you with an appointment, just to go down that road to look at maybe getting some of these recalls that are communicated. Probably the most important thing dealing with parts issues is the ongoing communication with your vendors. So in our case, our Toyota dealers, we update our dealers status of the parts orders. They have the ability to contact us to say, hey, can you give me an update, or I got this on. There is that ability. So keep that line of communication open with your dealer partners for updates as they're made available. And the last point I want to make here, and I'm just going to put my brand protection hat on for a second, is trust the source of your parts or your commodities. If you got a guy coming, that's selling commodities out of the trunk of the car, whatever they may be, hey, I was able to get a surplus run of these things. I got a good deal. Are you interested? If the price is too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, right? So I can say that, Toyota, we don't have a white box program where we have a surplus of parts. We don't have an opt-OE, solution where we have a tier, a second line of parts, opt-OE, whatever they want to call them. We sell genuine parts and they're sold through our dealer network, whether it's a Toyota dealer or a Lexus dealer. That's where our genuine parts come from. If the deal's too good to be true, chances are it may not be the real deal. So I like the suggestions I'm talking about here, Patrice, are not necessarily anything that I can, I'm not making the part get to the collision center any faster because, we're still challenged with all the logistics challenges.
Understood.
But just some thoughts or ideas to make sure we're ordering the part, one parts order, we got the right part, and, just some different strategies around that.
So Paul, I was just having a quick peek here at the Q&A. I have a question here that from Rick about asking, do all dealers, I'm guessing Toyota dealers, have access to the entire dealer network to search across the country for parts? So I'm thinking that maybe if you order a part, does this dealer has access to if this part is available across the country somewhere? Is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Today, I do not think they do. It's not one area that I'm in. I'm going to say they don't necessarily do. All dealers have access to our PDC, our warehouse, and that shows stock there. But I don't think we have the ability for me as a Toyota dealer in Toronto to contact a Toyota dealer in Edmonton to say, hey, do you have this? Like, I don't think that inventory is visible to all.
Okay. One thing that you mentioned, and something that I read the other day, and that was not in this article by RDN, but somewhere else. Manufacturers going through this pandemic, because of some of the shortage that they also are going through, there are some cars that are coming out of production that don't have certain options. Okay, and the only way you can tell now is by the VIN.
Yeah, I've heard
I think that
too.
the VIN is extremely important, especially for the production of the 2019 up to today. It will be very important to make sure that you got the right VIN. I would think. Don't think because last week you did a car that was the same year. This one has it may be different, right?
Yeah, I've heard that as well too. That some manufacturers have decided to ship vehicles. Maybe there's some features in there that they didn't feel that were as important as maybe some of the other features of the vehicle, and we're selling it, to get the customer his or her vehicle. But you're absolutely right. Checking the VIN to find out what's on that vehicle is paramount, right? From a Toyota and Lexus standpoint, I'm not aware that we've done that. If the car is supposed to come with whatever features based in the brochure or the ordering guide, that we're still shipping those cars as per the ordering guide, right? But I did hear other manufacturers are doing that. So yeah, checking the VIN to make sure. You should check the VIN anyways on just to see the different features, right? Because you can look at one car and have a car beside it, and the car beside it could have a whole lot more features, even though the shape and color and everything looks the same. So.
Yeah, I think what I read was mainly in terms of the rear heated seats or things like that. That option, they were stopping it. They were not putting it anymore because they were missing parts or missing chips and things like that. So they decided to take this option out because of that reason.
Yeah, what's important in that too, and I'm not here to say anything bad about different tools that are on the market, but if a vehicle is built with some options that maybe are not on that vehicle anymore, how accurate are some of those other tools that are in the market when they to go scan to say, hey, it's missing this component, or it should have this component, when it's maybe looking for something that may not be there, right? So I can't say that for sure, but there's that opportunity. So just another thing to be mindful of in that area, right?
So a few things that I'm seeing here in the Q&A, Paul, maybe for 1 minute or two. I mean, one comment, a question is the war in Ukraine affecting the Toyota supply chain? I mean, I don't know. But
yeah, can you repeat that question?
Is the war in Ukraine affecting the supply chain?
Yeah, so the war in Ukraine definitely is, having an impact in the automotive industry. I don't know how much it's affecting our brands, Toyota. I'm sure there is some effect. I may be not seeing because it's happening way beyond me. But I did hear that some manufacturers that, on the other side in Europe that build cars in that side of the world are facing some challenges, right? Because of some wiring harnesses that are coming out of the Ukraine.
Exactly.
I've also heard that their tires that are being manufactured in Russia could be in jeopardy, right? So that could have some impact. But yeah, I do believe the war in Ukraine is a contributing factor for the entire automotive world, right?
So is another one here is well, this one is, it says, is Toyota pulling parts from the USA? Are you guys looking at sometimes if there's a part that's not available here or difficult, or is there some connection, or maybe the US is going through the same thing? So I know, is there some kind of collaboration across the border?
Oh, absolutely. So we get our parts from the United States. So just from a supply chain standpoint, there's a huge warehouse in Ontario, California, and another huge warehouse in Kentucky. And those warehouses feed warehouses in the United States as well as in Canada. And so that's in the Kentucky area. And the one in Ontario, California feeds warehouses in, the western part of the United States. And we get parts from that as well, too. So both those warehouses will ship to our locations in Vancouver and Toronto. So it kind of answers that question. Yeah, if the parts on back order in the United States, chances are it's back order here in Canada, because it all comes, the main source that it comes from is the two PDCs in the United States.
Okay. Hey, Paul, I think that we're getting at the top of the hour here. So any closing comments here from this topic? And thank you for your help. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the chat. There's still some questions in the Q&A that we won't have time to get to. And I appreciate everybody, chipping in here and putting comments in there. But Paul, thank you. Did we miss anything here?
Yeah, Patrice, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this, and always great chatting with you. I guess there's probably some more questions that maybe have not been answered. Reach out to your Toyota dealership. If it's a Toyota related question or some ideas. Our dealers have my contact information. Some of you that I can seen some of the questions that come up, you do have my contact information as well too. And happy to chat with you or offer other suggestions that may come up. I just need to clarify though, I can't make the part come any faster. I don't have that crystal ball or magic wand, but I can certainly help or offer suggestions on different solutions to get that car fixed again. And again, remember, let's never jeopardize safety or quality of the vehicle. That's paramount in the repairs of the vehicle. So again, thank you, Patrice, and thank you, CCIF, for this opportunity to
Hey, you're
chat.
welcome, Paul. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for attending this. Again, this is good. I think we were above 200 participants here today, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for attending. This is recorded. This is going to be on the CCIF website probably sometime next week. And hey, just go back and listen to this recording again. And again, if you have any questions directed to Paul, you can reach out to him, or you can reach out to us through the CCIF. We can direct those questions as well. So thank you very much. Thank you to our sponsors for making this possible here. And June 2nd and 3rd, Montreal live event. I'll be there. I'm hoping to see you all there. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you today. So thanks. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And see you in Montreal in June.
Thanks, everyone.